Just want to check with people, Eli. I'm still seeing a like heavily pixelated box over that view there. Yeah, that just changed.
I still see it.
Just want to check with people, Eli. I'm still seeing a like heavily pixelated box over that view there. Yeah, that just changed.
I still see it.
Just want to check with people, Eli.
I still
I'm
see
seeing
some
a, like,
gray
heavily
boxes
pixelated
along the
box over
top
that
and along
view.
the
Yeah,
right
that
side.
just changed.
Hello, everyone.
I now look like I'm hiding behind the STCC sign. I'm incognito, but I'm there.
We can make you out. This is just the end of Halloween here. So you're just ghost-like picture, Betty.
Thanks, Jerry. Much appreciated.
We see your hair and we see your glasses.
That's it.
Well, it's good to know you're here in spirit, Betty.
Thank you.
I can't hear anything.
No, we weren't talking. Can you hear us now?
Okay, yes, okay. Oh my goodness. Okay, sorry about that.
No, you're good. You're good.
I'm just getting in here, so let me see. Do we have?
No, we don't have a
quorum?
quorum. Just you and Betty so far. Oh no,
Oh,
Engler is Betty. We have three.
okay. I know that Mary Kate said she was going to be late. And I'll leave it at that for now. Yeah.
Then that remind me, three is a quorum.
Yes, 3 is.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So we're okay. Okay. So I'd like to call the meeting to order. Nanette, can you please do the roll call?
Yes. Mary Kate Plate, Janae McDonough,
Present.
Tonya Butler Perez, Claribel Garcia,
Present.
Bill Johnson, and Betty Sposik.
Present.
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to start with our divisional outlook and key updates from cabinet members. The first one will be Dr. DeBurley, Vice President of Academic Affairs.
And again, trustees, I can help set the table a little bit. So by way of context, we had cabinet. Again, you've got the full roster there from Dr. DeBurley all the way down to Gladys Franco, who presented a very close version of this to all college town hall. And we thought because it was so comprehensive with a lot of programmatic information across all these divisions that it was worth putting in front of you, given the internal, external view of our work. So you're going to see each cabinet member really share some key work from their respective areas, and then perhaps it might make sense to have them go through all that and then see what questions you all have. But again, it's a really good crosswalk about the work that's happening across the college. So with that, let me turn it over to Jerry in Academic Affairs.
All right. Well, thanks very much. The first bullet point there is the MC program gap analysis, which I believe all the trustees have seen. And a copy of the report was also sent to all full-time faculty. Now, we're not going to do any deep dive. That's a pretty comprehensive report, but I'm just touching on a few of the points that were made in the gap analysis. And while no study is perfect, overall, there were no real surprises in what the MC gap analysis reported. There were quadrants reported in there as a sort of overall sort of summary in which things were rated, programs or areas were rated as high demand, low supply areas, high demand, high supply, and conversely, low demand, low supply, low demand, high supply. For us, what was interesting was looking at where MC determined that there was a high demand and low supply, in particular areas in business administration, management and accounting. CNC machines, that was no surprise to us. We can only train so many CNC machinists with our own capabilities. And then additionally, medical admin, again, as we know in the healthcare industry, folks in medical care and medical administrative areas, executive assistants, medical secretaries. What MC did tell us was that high demand and high supply in other areas such as nursing, information systems, respiratory care, and architecture, building, and technology. Now that doesn't quite tally with what we know, particularly in nursing, where we have, there is a high demand and we haven't found that there's a high supply in the area. But that again is a sort of anecdotal difference, noting that what MC also considered what other educational opportunities there are in the area. There are a number of nursing programs in the area, so that perhaps may have sort of skewed their finding. But certainly the impact on our own nursing program, the impact is not because of high demand, low supply. The impact on our nursing program is something I've discussed in the past, has to do with our salaries and our ability to actually attract more nursing faculty. Not mentioned today, and I'm not going to discuss today, are sort of areas of low demand, low supply, and low demand and high supply. We can certainly be talking about those over the next few months. This is again just pulling out some of the areas that were of particular interest. Program review is something that we've been doing since 2018, and that of course is something that's absolutely vital for our NECHI accreditation, and was not something that was in place. And what we set up in 2018 was a 5-year cycle so that all programs over 5 years would be reviewed, separating out the accredited programs because they go under quite a different stringent accreditation process. And those we were very comfortable with and felt that that was not an issue for reporting to report separately to NECHI. And for this year, we have 4 programs in our liberal and professional studies that will finish off the cycle. That's applied psychology, social work, our English transfer, and our urban studies and sociology transfer. In SHIPS, there are 12 programs that are accredited, and there are 2 that are not. One is the health science and the other is fire science. So both the health science and fire science will go through program review this year. The SHIPS accredited programs that have gone through reviews since 2018 are occupational therapy assistant, physical therapy assistant, and then our 2 dental programs, our dental assisting and our dental hygiene programs are reviewed. In addition, nursing and medical lab assistant have just undergone reviews. So we're in very good shape there. And in STEM, just 1 program is left to be reviewed this particular year, which is the electrical engineering technology. And then again, the whole cycle will start again next year. So that is something that had been commented on by NECHI in the past, and it's something that we've really got very good control on. And this is again, as academic affairs, of course, the quality and the excellence and the efficacy of our programs is absolutely paramount. So that's all good news there. And the next section there on Mass Skills Grant is also good news, just to know Mass Skills is Massachusetts grants that are really for equipment only. They don't provide any money for installation for IT, so that's something that is on the institution that gets awarded. Nevertheless, since 2019, we've been awarded 1.24 million in grants, and that 1.24 million has gone to basically 5 programs: dental hygiene, mechanical engineering technology, robotics, and SIMS, as well as energy systems, which we just got this summer. In addition, we just also applied for another $239,000 for SIMS. Those patients in SIMS for the patient simulation, those patients run, minimum $50,000. They're high use, and high use means that that they get broken. So as always with our equipment is there for students to use. And of course, all of our equipment is very high use. So our equipment costs are something both in STEM and in SHIPS, something that any external funding really helps us to maintain currency. So that's a very quick synopsis of what I think are good news from academic affairs. Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. And again, let's see if we can't just work through the crosswalk and then see what questions people have at the end. I believe we've got Darcy Kemp and Student Affairs next.
Thank you. Good evening, trustees. This evening, I'm going to give an update on success funds, as well as one of our NECHI Standard 5 projections. Just a reminder, SUCCESS is an acronym for Supporting Urgent Community College Equity Through Student Services, and it was created specifically for community college students. Each of the 15 community colleges have received SUCCESS funds, and our allocations have exceeded $2.2 million since April of 2021, when we received our first award. The resources allocated for success funds are intended to be invested primarily in personnel, and in particular for those areas that provide wraparound supports and services. The ultimate goal with success funds is for each institution to identify vulnerable populations at their institutions, and then to provide support and resources in terms of personnel to improve student outcomes. So we've invested our funds in the Male Initiative for Leadership and Education, LEAD, our Female Leadership and Mentoring Program, the Student Success Center, and areas that provide wraparound support services. Our emphasis really has been a holistic approach to supporting and engaging students, with focuses on peer mentoring, academic skill development, exploration of 4-year colleges for transfer opportunities, and targeted academic career transfer and scholarship advising. You'll see on this slide that we've hired and earmarked funds for full-time staff, 1 non-unit professional, 14 MCCC, and 3 AFSCME employees. Success funds have also provided opportunities to hire part-time staff, such as peer mentors, peer and professional tutors, supplemental instructors, and faculty coaches. And we've been fortunate to be able to leverage some of the non-personnel costs for things like bridge programs, digital equity initiatives, visits to career and transfer institutions, professional development workshops, speakers, training events. Everything we do with success funds is measured, reported, and assessed. And our early engagement outcomes are positive, with MILE program participants growing from 54 students in the fall of 21 to 279 actively engaged students this semester. LEAD has had similar increases in their cohorts of actively engaged students, from 5 students last fall to 162 as of this semester. Turning towards the NECHI Standard 5 projection of centralizing tutoring services, we made a projection that we wanted to do this by the start of the academic year. And through the self-study process, we were able to identify that we had a number of tutoring and academic support services and resources available to our students. But it could be cumbersome, and it could be difficult for a student to identify what type of support or resource they needed and where to get that information from. So the goal of centralization was from the student point of view, meaning they wouldn't have to figure out where they needed to go or specifically what they needed, but we could take care of that for them. So due to a really strong collaborations between academic affairs and student affairs, we now have a refreshed web page and a tutor request form. So this is now a version of a one-stop for advising, for tutoring. The teams in the Student Success Center, Writing Center, Supplemental Instruction, TRIO Student Support Services, and the STEM Center work together on this project. So now a student can search tutor on the website and be taken to one page with tutoring information. We also have one tutor request form that gets sent to the relevant area that the student is looking for tutoring in. It will also connect them with programs like TRIO Student Support Services so that they're connected directly with peer tutors who are assigned to TRIO. The team also worked to streamline tutor training. They established equitable hourly rates across all tutoring areas and established one handbook for tutor training, which has provided opportunities for the tutor roles and expectations to be the same across all tutoring and academic support areas. So the link to the refreshed web page is listed on this slide, as well as the tutor request form. But I'd also like to note, due to great search engine optimization by our IT and marketing teams, you can also just search tutor when you go to the STIC web page, and you'll be taken to that page. So really happy with the work that has been done in an effort to address our projection in our standard 5 students regarding centralization of tutoring services. Thank you.
Thank you, Darcy. And again, you'll see we are trying to marry up some of the projections that we had put in our self-study. Appreciate Darcy keeping us on track. And I do find, trustees, myself spending a fair bit of time in that building right behind you, building 19, our learning commons. And we really have worked. Darcy, through Student Affairs, has really brought a degree of integration to a lot of this that has been very, very helpful. So I appreciate that overview, Darcy. Let me switch gears as we bring up the next slide. This is one of those, and now for something somewhat different. We've got our CFO here, and typically we'd talk about this in Ways and Means, and we do. But again, because our fiscal outlook is so important, I want to, in the name of integration, be sure that the entire board is synced up on where we currently are and what the look ahead is. This is one where after Andrea goes, I do want to pause and see what questions people may have, because this is less programmatic, but this is the dollars, if you will, underneath all that operational work. So let me get out of the way, let Andrea jump in here.
Great, thank you, and good evening. So I'll just say first that this slide was updated since the packet was sent out. I don't know if it looks different to you, it's me, not you. So just to put that out there. So really, this slide, there are really 2 stories here. One is about the current fiscal year, which is tracking favorable to budget. And the other story here is about the financial future of the college, which really requires us to commit to identifying and implementing cost reduction strategies to eliminate essentially $4 million structural deficit that we've referred to a number of times in the past. So I want to just juxtapose those 2 stories here. So let's start on the left. So on the left side of the slide here, we can see the familiar trend of declining enrollment. And then toward the right of the graph, you can see the FY23 budget. And we had budgeted enrollment for this year to be 7% down from last year. So, and that's in terms of credits. So we budgeted credits to be 7% down from last year. At this point, fall enrollment is not quite final, but the preliminary numbers are actually looking like they're about even with last fall. So that is good news. And that's due really to some strategic initiatives implemented by student affairs and academic affairs and marketing. And it's great to see that enrollment is ahead of budget. And so for this year, that will probably result in about $500,000 increase in revenue over what we had budgeted. So that is good news. What's important to note, though, is that in our budget for this year, we had included $4 million of revenue from reserves. And so even with a $500,000 improvement in performance, that would leave us with about $3.5 million deficit that is being offset by reserves. So that brings us to the right side of the slide. And this is a reminder. So the table on the top on the right is reminding us of our 4-year plan to use reserves, $10 million in reserves over 4 years to offset a structural deficit that we should be eliminating over those 4 years. So on the line that says operational support in red, that shows that for FY23, this fiscal year, we were using $4 million in reserves, and then that would be reduced by $1 million a year through FY26 to get us to a essentially balanced budget, eliminate that structural deficit by FY27. And so what that means is that if you look at the graph below, we need to reduce net real expenses essentially by $1 million a year that will accumulate to $4 million in expense reductions over the 4-year period. And so when we think about what does that mean for our budget this year, in a couple of months, we're going to start the budget process, and we need to be prepared to identify strategic cost reduction ideas to implement in order to pull $1 million of expense out of the budget for FY24. And so I'm really confident that our team can identify, effective cost reduction strategies, but want trustees really to be prepared for those conversations, in the spring. And I also need to emphasize that with salary expense being at least 60% of total operating expenses, we should be prepared to consider the impact, the impact of those cost reduction strategies on salary expense. So I will stop there. And
again, that's why I want to check. In some ways, the quick question from trust me may be, well, what are some of the solutions? Some of the solutions you're hearing about from academic affairs, student affairs, you're going to hear about them through workforce development. So that's the wraparound piece around what we're doing. But let me just check and see what questions trustees may have for our CFO.
I do have a question. So, and it may be for the CFO, or maybe I want to go back, or you don't have to physically go back on the screen a couple slides, but in Darcy's presentation, she spoke about the 2.2 million, the hiring of 18 plus full-time personnel. And so considering the financial situation, how we're going to have to chip away at it year after year for the next 4 years, 60% or more of our budget being salary, where does that relate to the presentation and, the information that was just reviewed by Andrea, or that plan to reduce in salary?
Fantastic
Like,
question.
Temporary positions?
It's a fantastic question. So there are a few elements to this, and that's again what we want to try to help communicate. So essentially, if we're getting about $1 million in success money, and you see, by the way, we are putting that heavily on student engaged positions. These are not administrators, right? We're not adding administrators with those dollars. One, yes, when there are opportunities, when there are vacancies, we will swap in success funding, let's say for a position that would otherwise be something we had to carry as a college. There are two pieces though. These dollars are very, very prescribed. It can't just be a generic advisor that we hire on success funds. It has to be an advisor that uses a racial equity lens and in particular focuses on underrepresented students, for example. So there are definitely some restrictions on how we can map that to employees, but it is allowing us clearly, along with our federal grants, to staff in a different way. Mind you, they are short-term or uncertain dollars. There's no promise that next year's success funds will continue. The other thing, though, is the broader context. You see about $1 million a year. Again, I want to check with Andrea as a CFO. I believe our full-time salary, less any grant money or success fund, our full-time salary line is still about $24 or $25 million for full-time employees. Is that right, Andrea?
I think it's about 27.
27 million. So $1 million a year is really helpful. And you see it's getting us about a net 18 positions. But we have a long way to go in terms of the total amount of full-time salary that we're working into, in this case, 27 million.
Okay, so I just want to clarify, but for not being refunded for the success funds, I don't want to use this, I don't want to use the word retrenchment or whatever, but like, but for those success funds not being reawarded, you know, this potential salary considerations that we'll have to look at over the next 4 years will not come from those equity positions. They'll be coming from other areas.
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
these for sure. These aren't positions that are going to go away. In fact, we're going to try to hang on to these as long as we can with the success money. Yeah, we would end up, yeah, this helps bolster us in different ways, Janae.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to ask because, you know, I think some people may say, well, you know, if this ends up happening over the next 4 years and salary's an issue, oh, well, you just hired, you know, last year 18 plus. So I just want to make sure that I'm asking the clarifying questions and so that the context is there and is understood. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, very much appreciated.
Hi, it's Betty. I just have a salary question. Are salary guidelines for the various positions throughout the college provided by the state? How are salary determined?
Yep. So there's a few layers, Betty. Again, great questions. And this is why in a committee that has personnel, this is the place to try to unpack this a little bit. For our two units, as we call them, for our two unions,
yeah,
salaries and the structure and the way that they are put on a grid has already been bargained. So there is some discretion, and oftentimes, by the way, we use the discretion to make a market adjustment up because we know there's so much competition, let's say, for faculty who are interested in being nursing instructors for us. But yes, for our two unions, which represents then combined over 300 full-time employees, those salary guidelines are already established. Essentially, the place where there is mapping, if you will, to comparables would be what we call our exempt employees, our non-unit professionals. So all of cabinet members here, there is, through the discretion you provided to me, my ability to hire at a competitive rate and also attempt to retain our talented non-unit professionals using that same rationale. So we have salary surveys that give us a sense of not only what are people making at the other community colleges, but what are they making at UMass? What are they making at Westfield State? We have access to that information, so we know how benchmarked, how ballpark our salaries are. And obviously with my own salary, that's a dance between US trustees and the Commissioner of Higher Education. So there are definitely facets to how salary gets established here at the college.
But there isn't anything that we can influence as trustees.
No,
Like,
yeah,
it's a big part of the pie.
it is. And obviously there's a lot that we sort of manage operationally, right? In terms of recruitment and retention of employees.
Right.
The difficulty is we're in this situation where we have to find reductions. So again, we've seen a steady via the baby boomer approach set of retirements. And oftentimes, let's say you can take a salary that is otherwise a lot higher and not necessarily given 30 years of longevity have to pay that same salary. And so we've had some natural savings that happen when there's a retirement.
Yeah.
But those retirements seem to be slowing down. So again, having to pay attention that ultimately we have to balance a budget, and I have to propose for all of you as trustees a budget that you can approve without either cranking up fees on students or somehow expecting that the legislature is going to, significantly increase the amount of money that we get through our state appropriation. That's the kind of dance that we do.
And I realize that it is only one part. And for the budget, we look at everything. So thank you. Appreciate the information.
Other questions about the fiscal underpinnings to our operations and programs and personnel? Obviously,
Okay,
to be
you can
continued.
continue.
Yeah, to be continued. Mary Kozlauskas, our Vice President and CIO.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. So in this slide, I'm just going to share with you some 3 key areas where we're focusing our efforts and, just to kind of give everyone an update. So, for the sustainable funding, our IT capital budget is about $8 million for the fiscal year 22 through 26 budget years. And in there, we're focusing on replacing end-of-life and outdated systems that really include the switches in the infrastructure, phone system, campus wireless, all of the systems that you think about that connect us to the internet and provide our, internet service around campus. Software updates, we recently completed a major upgrade to our student system, and we still have a few more to go. We're in the process of doing our CM recruit. We'll have to be replacing our portal. And again, these are replacing legacy systems that had to be upgraded, that had reached end of life. We'll also focus on classroom technologies and equipment updates for those rooms that we are using. And of course, supporting the remote and virtual environments that we are still, with employees and students dealing with. So we have to, ensure that those systems are kept up to date. And then, of course, virtual desktop streaming and on-campus computers for the students. So all of that is included in our, sustainable funding, our 5-year capital plan. And then when we get to the new strategic plan, any of those findings will be considered and align with any future budgeting that we do. And that will be expected in spring of 23. So we expect to be, have some updates to that plan. In the slide, I included a link. And so that brings you to our IT portal, and it has a section on projects, and it lists all of the projects that we have going on. So I encourage everyone to take a look and see of all the various things that we're working on. It's quite extensive list, and the IT department has been very, very busy for the last year or so, trying to get everything updated. The second area that I want to focus on is information security, and really focusing on the people part of that. Just kind of want to throw out some statistics. 2020 report from Stanford University Research showed that 88% of data breaches are caused by human error. In 2022, the World Economic Forum risk assessment report estimated about 95% of all incidents are due to human error. So as part of our effort to, educate our users and to secure our environment, and also as part of the requirements of our cyber security insurance, we've implemented several programs in the last few years, but the annual information security training, that became a requirement last year. And we just ended our first year. And so this slide is a little bit outdated. We had about 75% completion rate by the end of October, and then the new campaign, it goes annual, November 1st to October 31st. So we just started the new one for this year. And, so there's a couple, modules that the employees have to take. And one of them is actually a day in the life of an employee and how they could be a target of social engineering. So it's a pretty good module, and we're already on the uptick for this year's compliance. Another major project that we have is multi-factor authentication, MFA. And so, everyone has probably used that at some point where you log in with your password, but you also have to verify by putting in another code or something, either on an app or through a text message or a phone call or something like that. And so we started the pilot for IT, did that last month. And actually today we started the beginning of the rollout with the pilot for the finance team. So Andrea's group is going to be by the end of the week starting their participation. And then we expect to launch it to the full college population sometime in the spring. So the last part that I really like to focus on a lot is, reducing complexity. We have an extremely complex environment that has grown over the years, and we have multiple systems, lots of workflows and processes. And what we're really doing is taking a look at these back office functions. with the goal of automating to make it easier, save time for people so they can focus on other things, optimizing our resources and time and money. So, the goal is to have fewer systems for IT support and then making it better for our staff and for our students. So just a couple quick examples, Adobe Creative Cloud. So that's a software that various departments would buy and have installed. And so we just bought a campus license. So every computer on campus will get it. It's a little bit more expensive, but because we're getting rid of some of the redundancies, it will actually end up in a net savings, and we'll be able to roll it out to many more people in, all classrooms. And that is expected to be completed by January. The onboarding process for all students, we've now included non-matric students, workforce, quicker account turnaround times. So now everyone gets an account instead of, different people have different rules. And so now it's all automated, and we've really, really cut down on the amount of time that we're taking to process accounts. We recently migrated our old student interface. We branded it Aries after the mascot, the ram. And so it's a streamlined interface. It gives many more options to students so they can track their progress. It's much easier to support. It gives students the ability to use self-service tools that, we didn't necessarily have available before. We included instant enrollment for workforce. And so, we're upgrading and streamlining, and we're hoping that the fewer customizations we have, the fewer errors. It's better for security. Things are less complex, and it's really helping everybody be more productive. So those are some of the things that we're working on. And so anyone have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Thank you, Mary. I know the title CIO can seem a little benign. Whether Chief Information Officer or Chief Technology Officer, it's been incredibly helpful to have Mary at the cabinet table, even before COVID. Just the amount of enterprise that we have invested in all things technology as a college is pretty stunning. It's good to hear, by the way, that we were able to renew a insurance policy for cybersecurity. That is not a small thing in this day and age. And even things like multi-factor authentication, MFA, implementing that at a college that has about 700 employees is also no small feat. So again, really glad to have Mary helping move these things along. And again, helping ensure that we are integrated across the college. So thank you for that. Again, we'll keep going, 2 more, and then we'll see what other questions people have. Dr. Shea Butler for Advancement in External Affairs.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Happy to begin with a brief advancement and foundation update on our fundraising and friend-raising efforts thus far this year. As mentioned at the full board meeting, we are coming off a successful gala where the Stick Foundation raised over $111,000 at the 55th Celebration and Resilience Award. We had over 220 supporters of the college attend, and it also included 27 sponsoring organizations. There's been great follow-up and outreach done to continue to leverage these new and continuing relationships. Additionally, we recently were awarded grants in the amount of $12,500 from Delta Dental to increase opportunities for underrepresented students to pursue careers in the dental field, and $12,500 from the Community Foundation to remove barriers that impede student success. We've also recently been invited to apply for funding from 2 corporate foundations. And so while these grants are small, Delta Dental and the new corporate foundation invitations are all new relationships. So it shows that we are really leveraging our networks and raising awareness about the great things that are happening here at the college. We're also in the process of building our major and principal gift action plan, as well as building our alumni network. So we have been very busy and excited about the work that's been going on. As it relates to marketing and communications, I'll begin with the staff update. On our Zoom today is our new Director of Marketing and Communications, Eli Freund, who joined us almost a month ago. He's a real pro who's hit the ground running and is guiding us forward in a great contributor to our enrollment management marketing efforts, as well as marketing in general at the college. I want to call out our great partnership with academic and student affairs to drive new and continuing student enrollment through targeted and strategic marketing and communications efforts, which really nicely round out the personalized high-touch efforts that staff and faculty advisors, as well as the deans, engaged in over the summer to help drive fall enrollment. And we are continuing to partner and collaborate as we have a look ahead towards spring and really developing new campaigns and initiatives to drive our spring enrollment. Our priority next is really getting our hands around how to measure the impact of our marketing efforts through data analytics, and looking forward to Eli's expertise helping us there. We hired a marketing agency of record called Interact Communications this summer, and we're moving forward with them for their research work and new campaigns, again, with a priority on targeted spring recruitment. On the research side, we will be launching recruitment for internal and external focus groups to help gauge perceptions on our brand. So the board may be asked to weigh in with a questionnaire or survey, so just be on the lookout. And these insights are going to help us shape our strategy as we look to launch our marketing efforts in the future. On external affairs and community partnerships, the Office of Community Engagements has been very busy this fall, coming off a successful College for Kids program this summer that's continuing to grow and evolve as we seek out new and diverse programming that appeals to youth. We are continuing to work to find the right mix in our portfolio of offerings, as well as donors to support these efforts. So we're excited that a couple of companies are really taking a look at our College for Kids programs, and we may be able to leverage some funding there to help us grow and expand. We had a successful event on campus as we sort of capped off Hispanic Heritage Month, the partnership with HCC. We hosted the end of conference gala for the Puerto Rican Studies Association conference. We had almost about 120 attendees up on the 7th floor, building 2. So it was just an exceptional event, and a great partnership with HCC and STCC. Other community events included Mentoring Matters, a 5K race and community fair. So we were involved there. And then we also had employees who ran or walked in the Judge Boyle 5K race. So continuing to leverage those community partnerships. Work with our legislators continue. As for government relations, we had a great year building connections with our legislative delegation and our national representatives in Congress. We brought the local delegation on campus a few times last year, starting with our legislative breakfast earlier in the year. We also held Senator Adam Gomez's BIPOC business forum. And most recently, we had the well-attended student loan debt cancellation clinic that happened a couple of weeks ago with Senator Warren and U.S. Representative Presley, who were on campus. Our division continues to engage our partners in government to keep the college top of mind when legislation arises that can really benefit students and the college. And we're currently planning our legislative breakfast at the start of the new year, and we're really singularly focused, again, on gaining access to that $5 million appropriation to round out our funding proposal for the SHIP's relocation plan. So I'm working closely with finance and our legislative leaders to accomplish that. As for strategic planning, I can turn it over to Trustee Esposito now to give the update on planning, unless there's some other place in the agenda.
We have her on the agenda, but Betty, if you don't mind, do you want to share that outlook? And we certainly can return to that in a little bit too. You're on mute too, Betty.
Jay, do you want me to go over what's sent out today regarding the November 16th?
Yeah, sure. You can give a summary or you can share it. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. On the 16th, it's I believe it was sent out to everyone. There's going to be a workshop dedicated to evaluating STCC's current core values. And I read the message that came out, and I've been to meetings, but I just have to say from my heart, what is so good is that everyone is really working together and they're really into the, I want to say not the nitty gritty, but really from the bottom up. And what do we need to do? What do we need to change? And if it needs to be changed, we change it. Not, oh, we've always done it that way. I was really impressed with presentations that were given when the last meeting I had attended. But on the 16th, this is open. All employees are invited to attend the values workshop, reviewing STCC's current values and engage in small group discussions. So that is what's coming up. But all of this, the goal will be to wrap it all together, working with the president's cabinet, strategic planning leadership team, and then there will be a final presentation to the board of trustees. But it's unbelievable work. There's so many pieces of the pie, and it's really very, very good. And I applaud Dr. Butler. Thank you.
Thank you for that outlook. And yes, many pieces of the pie, indeed. Thank you for being the liaison, Trustee-elect Exposito, to that task force. And again, to the overview from Shay, you can see there's just a lot going on. There's a lot going on. You know, I got this question from one of the trustees around, you know, does the college have a number 2? And if I can impart anything coming out of this committee is that you'll see that we have 6 number 2s. There's just a lot that goes into each of these divisions, and their leadership to a person over all of this work, as you see tonight, has been really, really important. So with that, let me go to our final presenter, Gladys Franco, who's going to talk about workforce development.
Good evening. In the Division of Workforce Development, we are building the foundation through adult education and ESOL programming. We just finished applying for the next iteration of what we call the Community and Adult Learning Center, or the CALC grant, which is over $1.2 million to really support our community members in their transition from non-credit to credit, initiating the process of the HiSET preparation. This a grant will allow us to continue our in-person, virtual, synchronous and asynchronous instruction, improve the quality of services and outcomes. We just hired a new assistant director of the Springfield Adult Learning Center. And this will also enable us to increase the number of seats and the access with on-site programs and collaboration with programs like Head Start and Indian Orchard Citizens Council. We're looking forward to expanding opportunities for contextualized learning through additional grants, such as the MassStep grant, which we'll be applying in January, and expanding partnerships with community agencies and community-based organizations. We're also clarifying the pathways and establishing intentional connections and opportunities that flow from the non-credit to the credit programs in alignment with regional priorities, such as healthcare and social assistance, education, advanced manufacturing, technology, and also looking at construction and transportation trades, as well as exploring our role in green tech and jobs. We have the Community College High Demand Workforce Training Program funds, or the Education and Training Funds, as a grant by the state of Massachusetts, $735,000 to build capacity, wraparound services, pay for tuitions, support tracking, and student success overall. We have funds from the Community Mitigation Grant through our Hamden Prep program to build digital and computer literacy, but also to support students that complete the program in participating in additional workforce training and certification programs. And we're working on developing more short-term programs with micro-credentials in collaboration with the 3 schools at SHIPS, LAPS, and STEM for certifications such as the CNA, PCT, paraeducators, the IT, both in labs and STEM, office specialists and technician certificates, looking at cybersecurity, computer-aided design, as well as supporting the civil engineering track with concrete technician and inspector licenses. And we're looking at nurturing the regional healthcare workforce with over $500,000 in training dollars. And we just recently opened our new CNA lab, which cost the institution over $1.3 million. That was both based on construction as well as new equipment and materials to really support the learning of our workforce. This will enable us to increase offerings during the day, afternoon, evening, and weekends. And we also have additional training funds to support the wraparound services such as bilingual co-instruction, free tuition fees, and materials, tutoring, and transition. Our goal is to build capacity and explore more offerings and opportunities for all community members where they feel valued and supported and contribute to the economic well-being of a region.
So a lot of numbers, certainly a lot of sectors noted there. Gladys, trustees, has her work cut out because this is that division that has to really focus on a lot of this grant money, but it also means there's a short-term piece, as much as Gladys has attempted to build a long-term strategy for keeping our hands around this. I think a number of you did come over after the retreat in September and you saw the CNA lab. Obviously a very important investment from us in sort of on the ground, bricks and mortar ability to train cohorts every month in and month out in service to our ability to help with career development and pathways. So thank you, Gladys, for that. This internal, external is our cabinet. Happy to open it up to see what other questions you may have from any of these particular divisions.
If there are no questions, we can move on to, your portion, Dr. Cook.
Great. So let me be brief. So we did have Betty talk about the strategic planning update. And again, she continues to be your liaison to the task force. Briefly, so you may have seen, and we did have 3 trustees who came to the announcement down at Union Station. A really significant note to call out, which is the awarding of funds to get off the ground this Cyber Center of Excellence. It was really important for a public entity to step forward to be the employer of record, and STCC did do that. Again, we could not have done that without the kind of talent we have in the form of Mary Kozlauskas, our CIO, and her staff. But it also gives us a really clear position in terms of this cyber range. So again, there's a lot of terminology there, but imagine essentially a laboratory environment that has that is safe to sort of deal with threats, attacks, all the world that is cybersecurity. And we get to be in the driver's seat in terms of making sure our students, as well as area colleges and universities, have access to that. So that's a very big deal, combined with what will be called a SOC, S-O-C, a Security Operations Center, that will help municipalities, again, like a city of Chicopee, like a city of Westfield, actually get help and assistance with their own cyber protections, because not everybody can build out an IT shop of cyber experts and pay the kind of salaries that they need there. So this is a very big deal for us to be in there. If you do a little Googling around cyber centers and community colleges, you'll find that is not a typical lane. We often see universities playing that role. So again, the fact that we have a technical community college in the mix is something I just wanted to call forward. And again, we do expect more funding to follow on from this initial investment. So more to come on that. I'll transition to the other items that you see there on the personnel report. You see that information. Just a few things. Dr. Butler had mentioned we do have a new director of communication and marketing. Eli Freund is out behind the scenes, even on this call, learning the ropes with our YouTube channel and making sure that we address the needs of our open meeting obligation. So good to have him here. And again, I know he's really working to learn the college inside out. You'll see on the promotion side, there are a number of administrative positions, administrative assistants that have gone from clerks to administrative assistants. So there is a version continuing at STIC of growing our own and really investing in our staff and seeing them evolve when there are some opportunities. So I just want to note that. In terms of vacancies or leavings or separations, our athletic director has moved on. In order to fill that on an interim basis, a person that is long known here, Vin Grissetti, has returned. He was the athletic coordinator before it was a director position. He was in that role for nearly 30 years. He's come back. He'll plug that for a while Darcy Kemp and Student Affairs has a chance to kind of imagine, what do we want athletics to look like? How do we marry that up to a lot of these student success initiatives? So more to come on that. But again, really appreciate Vin Grissetti coming back and stepping in there in a part-time role. As far as B and C, so a couple things. Under B, you'll see Stick Foundation College Connection. I just want to note for this committee that the STCC Foundation, which has its own board, and I am on that board by virtue of my position, has also historically welcomed a trustee liaison so that the Board of Trustees and the Board of Directors for the foundation have a close connection. So we are in need of that role from the Board of Trustees. What I would say for those of you who knew and appreciated Frank Quigley, who is still around and was a trustee, he did double duty. He was both a trustee and as an alumni and a longstanding member of the foundation, he really played that liaison role. So it would be helpful to go back and figure who can be, as a trustee, the liaison to the foundation, so we stay connected between those groups. So really more of a prompt for a future conversation. In terms of advancement, given the role that the foundation does help with that, two things: we continue to plug along Delta Dental, recently awarded for student scholarships, $12,500. So again, we continue to be well received by a number of these industries and sectors. And also, interestingly, KPMG, so the global auditing and management consulting firm, gave us what on its face looks like a modest $25,000. But the stunning piece, and I want to give some credit to folks who helped make this happen, the stunning piece is there is the ability to get matching up to $500,000 from KPMG employees themselves. We were one of only 5 awards for, again, what seems like a modest $25,000. And by the way, there were over 200 universities and colleges that applied for this. So we're talking Harvard level acceptance. Harvard level acceptance. We were less than 3% of those seeking these monies, and STCC was one of 5. Pretty amazing odds to get this. So Rhoda Balemjian, who is business administration faculty, flagged this and helped promote it. Emily Klukas-Liederman, our assistant dean of liberal and professional studies, that's that School of Laps, really helped shepherd this along. They really, behind the scenes, let me note them by name, because they really helped move this along. And essentially, the entirety, 30,000 employees at KPMG will be invited to look at our 5 institutions and dollar for dollar have a chance to be matched as part of this. And what they really liked is the specificity that STIC is engaging in student success, our MILE program, our LEAD program. And again, we had the head of their foundation from KPMG on campus last week, hearing first person from us about this work. So again, it could seem pretty modest, but that's a very big deal for us to be in. I wanted to call that out for everyone. I'm going to end by this. We do have a video. For those of you that I know some of the trustees here were at the 55th Gala. We want to play for you our about 4-minute video that really captures the essence of what 55 years at the college has been, what the look ahead is, and again, the spirit that was in that room at our gala. And again, how much underneath our community really is supportive of this wonderful institution. I want to get you right here with this video, because I think, again, this really captures the work that we're doing and looking forward to with that strategic planning as well. If we can run that, thank you.
I landed in New York. In Jordan, I was raised by a single mom, and she put me on a plane. I landed in New York City. I was a student here in 1977, enrolled in English for second language. The lady in the program said, you know, you seem like a sharp guy. Why don't you go to school here? So I decided to give it a try, and sure enough, I graduated from here, and the rest is history.
Every single student, every single one of our graduates has a story of persistence, of perseverance, of commitment to that mission of transformation.
I started right here at STCC. I know so many other people also have started their education, their careers here. And again, I think it's critically important, not only to the neighborhood, to the city of Springfield, but really to Western Mass and far beyond.
I remember just walking up State Street, didn't know what to do, and I just saw this big sign outside that says, register now. It was for the fall term. And I was walking through building 16, and then I hear someone speaking Spanish. And I'm like, okay, I'm safe.
We are a Hispanic serving institution now. Actually, yesterday in a class, I talked to one of my new students who's from El Salvador.
I see the respect the community has, and I see the footprint everywhere.
There's a whole workforce aspect to our continuing education that sometimes is under the radar, but is just as critical to the core work of the college as well. That's that on-ramp. That's that step forward.
I went to a four-year institution, had a great education, great opportunity, but then I came back to the community and I needed to do something else.
We have a lot of second careers, people who have worked their whole lives and now at 60 decide that they really want to come in and be a nurse and give back.
We're clearly indebted to the families of Shabeli, the Liso, the Ryan family, and Dr. Garvey.
The population that I work with in particular are high school students looking to get a head start on their college career. I know what the work we're doing is laying the foundation for what their future college or career will look like.
I got my associates from here back in '09. I went on to be a congressional liaison for Congressman Richard Neal. I left his office about 4 years after to pursue my grad degree at Western New England School of Law.
You can't quit on what's happening here because you see the growth, but you definitely have to stick with it, and they have to stick with it. It takes that commitment to rise the whole community and the whole village and the whole country. You can't give up on anybody.
The future of STCC is bright and it's strong, and I foresee and foreshadow great things to come.
The digitization of everything, the high tech of everything is real. And so continuing to be that institution that people look to, that's how we will stay unique.
Always want to be an important piece of the community.
If I did it, so can you.
The future is still bright and the light's still shining here.
Opportunity.
Inspirational.
Amazing.
Excellence.
Transformative.
STCC.
Stick.
STCC.
Stick.
STCC.
Gratitude.
Grit.
55.
55 great years.
55 years of gratitude and grit.
55 سنة ممتازة نعلم الطلاب.
55 years of gratitude and grit.
55 años maravillosos.
Thank you.
شكرا.
Thank you. Gracias.
Thank you.
We'll be here for another 55 years. Innovative, transformative, spectacular.
Oh, it's hard not to smile watching that again. That does live on our YouTube channel. And again, that evening was special. That video was a hit. And again, that's the work. And again, really appreciate the opportunity to share that with the committee. And that's what we have for this evening.
Thank you. It was nice to see that again as well. Okay, any old business? Any new business? Okay, our next meeting date and time will be Monday, February 6th, 2023 at 5 p.m. Adjourning the meeting. Nanette, can you take the roll call?
Yes. Mary Kate Guerin. Janae McDonald.
Yes.
Tonya Butler Perez. Gladys Beth Garcia Figueroa.
Here.
Bill Johnson and Betty Esposito.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, good night, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Take care.